Hey everybody, Brett from Love Bats on the Belfry back for another video. Welcome back to my horror vlog. I've got my coffee here with me, just saying I just want to drink coffee and be left alone. I will just talk about one that I saw that is a retro movie that is a complete hidden gem. And that's the movie called Popcorn. This came out in 1991. Now there are several movies with the same title, but the cover of this movie, Popcorn, the one that I saw in particular, is very unique. So you can definitely tell it apart from the other movies called Popcorn. But this one, it's kind of funny that this movie is called Popcorn because it doesn't really, the title, honestly, I don't know what else you would call this movie as far as title goes, but Popcorn definitely doesn't seem like the particular title for this movie, despite what it is about. Popcorn came out in 1991. I feel like a movie like this was just tailor fit for me, like tailor made to my liking, because this movie has like everything I want in just like a corny horror movie. It doesn't take itself that seriously, and it's very apparent through this whole movie. It does have it does have a good plot. It doesn't overstay its welcome. But I don't know, Popcorn is just an awesome movie. It's such a hidden gem, and it's going to be one that I definitely go back and revisit pretty frequently. Popcorn is about a group of college students that put on this horror movie marathon at this theater to raise money. And turns out during this horror movie marathon, there's a killer in the theater killing off people and some of your central characters. And I'm not going to go like in depth on everything that happens, but it does play out the way you would expect for a movie like this. But just everything about the movie, the aesthetic of the movie, like I will say, because during most of this movie is when they're running the horror movie marathon. There's like three like main pictures that they show where it's like, they filmed these scenes, these movie scenes within the movie itself. And, they're showing these movies that aren't real movies, but it's almost like it reminds me of when what was it, Quentin Tarantino and like Robert Rodriguez did that like Grindhouse double feature thing that happened back in like 2007, 2008 or something like that. And in between Planet Terror and then Death Proof was after that. Like in between those two movies, they showed these fake movie trailers, which they went on to make like the actual movies, like in one of them being Thanksgiving that came out towards the tail end of 2023. They did one of the fake trailers was Machete, which they went on to make a real movie. And so I got those type of vibes watching like these fake like movies, like within watching the movie Popcorn. I think the first feature was called Mosquito and had like, it was Mosquito and like had an exclamation point on the end. And like the second movie was something about like the electrified man. And there was a third one. I can't recall what it was though, but I love this. It was such like a love letter to like, especially Mosquito was like a love letter to like classic like monster movies from like the 50s. It was pretty funny looking. And I will say, if there is an MVP to this movie, it's the audience. I just have to say, like, when you think of, extras showing up for a movie, there's tons of people who get hired as extras in, many TV shows and movies. I gotta say, the extras in the movie Popcorn, I would say they were like the most ecstatic people to ever be on the set of a movie, ever. Because everyone was dressed head to toe in like monster outfits. It looked like Halloween at the movies, basically, in this movie. And I I have no words. Like, all I can say is I would have loved to have been a part of that movie. Because, man, that whole movie audience was like, you could tell they were horror fans. They liked their monster movies. Because, I mean, everyone, like, brought it. And I love movies that have this like movie aesthetic to it, where it's like they're at a theater or whatever, or they just show all this love for cinema and stuff like that. And Popcorn definitely brings that. And the kills are fun. Like during when they were showing the screening for Mosquito, like one of the characters gets killed through, they have this prop that's a giant mosquito and it goes like flying through the theater, and then one guy ends up getting impaled because of it, and it's pretty incredible. And then I think during the second feature, that Electrified Man movie, all the seats in the theater had like this like buzzer like underneath, or like had like the chairs vibrate, and one of the guys was like up in this booth on the side where he was like trying to get it to work or whatever. And there was no like universal thing where like at a part of the movie like everyone's chair would like shake or something like that, so he had to manually do it, and like all these chairs were like sparking and it was just super odd. And yeah, but it was stuff like that. It's just like, it's hard not to like this movie because of that. And yeah, it really is a hidden gem. Like, I mean, I wouldn't say the kills are like head over heels amazing, but just everything about this movie, the aesthetic, the look of it, like, it's super cool. And one thing I will say about this movie was released in 1991. Even though it came out in 1991, the best way I can describe the look and feel of this movie is if they shot it in like 1986 or 1987, something like that, like mid to late 80s. But it wasn't released until 1991, because this movie just screams the 80s, to me at least. My dogs are walking all over the place in this house, so sorry about their paws pittering and pattering. Yeah, they have no life. But back on track, I love this movie. Popcorn, I highly recommend. You can watch it on Shudder. This is how I discovered the movie. Shudder does have, I mean, it is the, grand central of horror fans. I highly recommend subscribing to Shudder for streaming services. I have major beef with streaming services, but if there's one I can highly praise, it's Shudder. And yeah, Shudder definitely looks out for all these hidden gems, and Popcorn's definitely one of them. I had a blast watching it, so I hope that you also enjoy watching Popcorn as well. It's weird, seeing movies like this like come along every once in a while, even those that have quite some age to it, and then you just like discover it with no word of mouth or anything. Like, I just saw the image of the cover of the movie pop up. I'm like, that looks like my type of movie. So watched it, loved it. Now let's get into a very recent movie that just came out, Lisa Frankenstein. My wife and I went and saw this movie last night and really enjoyed it, actually. I going in, I kind of had felt like I knew what I was getting into, but it also went in a direction that I also wasn't expecting. I'm sure some people will go watch this movie and know exactly, like, it plays out super predictably, but I don't know. I went in this movie with real fresh eyes and just didn't really have much expectation. And one thing I'll give praise before getting like real in depth to the movie is when I watched the trailer to this movie, like, it showed some stuff in the movie that, of course, were like these, certain major moments. Like, you saw like a split second of it in the trailer. But I loved that. I don't know why so many trailers nowadays will just literally show the three major acts of the movie, where it shows the beginning, the middle, the big climax, and then shows like part of the end of the movie in the trailer. And then you have that typical like, wow, I feel like I literally just watched the movie. And yeah, I'm just glad that the trailer to this movie didn't really do that. It showed some major like parts in the movie that were like, ended up being the most memorable parts, but it wasn't like, it was showing you like everything from the movie in the trailer. That's a thing that I don't know why movie companies and marketing companies do this now. It just doesn't make a lick of sense to me. Like movie trailers years ago, it gave you just enough that like would pique your interest and then you would want to go see it. That's all they would show you about the movie basically. And with the internet nowadays, it's like you can read up on stuff so easily and find all this access to certain scenes, or especially just, movie trailers that are released on YouTube. Like you have like there's a teaser trailer, then there's the full trailer, then there's trailer number 2, and then the final trailer type thing. It's like by that moment you feel like you've seen most of the important things from the movie. And then I don't know, this is just personal preference, but when I see all this detail revealed about a movie, I don't really know if I want to go see it at that point. But enough of that tangent. Let's just talk about Lisa Frankenstein. And yeah, I did enjoy this movie a good bit. I wouldn't say it's a spectacular movie, but you know pretty much what you're in for. Like, it has a very Tim Burton look to the movie. I wouldn't go as far as to compare, like, this movie to, like, it is a pretty big love letter to, like, the 80s and stuff like that. And I know that at this point, there's so many things that are just, like, a throwback to the 80s. And I'm sure a lot of people are getting 80s fatigue at this point. But this movie definitely felt like it was fit for a certain demographic, and it kind of stuck to that. It wasn't trying to be outside of that. It wasn't really trying to appeal to everybody, which is something I can appreciate. And a lot of movies nowadays, like, you get this vibe where they're really just trying to universally appeal to everybody. And this movie, it's like, oh, do you happen to like The Cure? Do you like, these 80s bands like The Cure, Bauhaus, and Susie and the Banshees, Joy Division? Well, there's some appreciation there. This movie may be marketed towards you. Are you somebody that likes monster movies? Do you like, old Universal movies? Do you like gothic type stuff? This is marketed towards you. And if you're kind of outside that demographic, like you don't like monster movies, you don't like gothic stuff, like you don't like, the theme of like eternal love, this movie probably isn't for you. I mean, I think it has enough that like even people who aren't super into that stuff may have an appreciation for this movie. But I like that this movie doesn't try to appeal to like a mass audience. And as you can see, like, you can see that this movie isn't doing like grand numbers at the box office, and not that like many people are really going to the movies now. I feel like it's a very small demographic still going to the movies. But with this movie only being in theaters, this is the first time in quite a while I actually like went to the movies. I forgot how it feels to go to movies sometimes because, audience members can definitely ruin it. I wouldn't say like it actually ruined the movie for me at all. But yeah, we had some quite chatty like teenage girls behind us that I at least was getting the vibe they really didn't care about that movie that much. So, but yeah, Lisa Frankenstein, I liked a lot of this movie, and I liked the way it resolved. It's funny, going into this movie, I thought like, I had this feeling that was like, oh, they're gonna have like a great like, 2 acts, and then the last act, or like the last like 20 minutes, I feel like they're gonna drop the ball with it. They didn't though. And I really liked how this movie resolved, and it left a really cool message of like eternal love, that like, two people can love one another forever. And that's something I appreciate. I think there's a lot of movies that are going to come out now and have come out that are just, that are realistic about love. And that is also something to be appreciated in it of itself. But it was nice just to watch a movie that like had like this fairy tale type feeling to it, where you were like, yeah, those two people are meant to be together like forever. And I don't know, it was refreshing, because we were used to that, like, in stories for a really long time, and then most people were like, that's not how real life is, and this is how a love story would normally play out. And then you know, we got really used to that. And just to get like bringing back the whole like fairy tale feel like towards the end of a, you know, story, that was really nice. Like, even though it's funny because like that was such like the norm, and like I'm sure people got sick of that. That's why this other thing came along of being like, you know, movies like Marriage Story or, you know, Revolutionary Road, where it's like it tackles some really dark subjects, and it's like, this is like, real marriage can be like this. Like, this is like what a real romance can play out as. But like kind of getting that escape from Lisa Frankenstein was really nice. And it's funny, the dad of the family in this movie was the guy who plays Mike's dad in Stranger Things. It's funny, I feel like he's just the typecast dad in a lot of stuff. And honestly, like, no beef against the actor, but yeah, he really is typecast, because everything I've seen him in, like, he is just that character. Like, that's all you see. Like, he plays the same dad, like, kind of, yeah, I'm just taking it easy, I'm the dad, yeah, oh, all this stuff is falling apart around me, but I can't really care about it all that much. Like, that's the vibe you get from the dad in this movie, and the guy who plays the dad in Stranger Things is exactly like that, and it's the same actor. But yeah, I mean, everyone played their roles really well. The lady who plays Lisa Frankenstein, I thought, did a really good job as her. I really liked her character. It is just the classic, like, outcast, you know, doesn't fit in anywhere really at school. You know, she gets bullied, like, she gets picked on by everybody. And then she kind of just has this moment of, you know, you find out why she is the way she is. At first I thought, I was like, why, you know, when you think about the aspect of this character, you're like, why is she just obsessed with like dead people and such? You find out like why, you know, she is attracted to death so much, and then like why she visits this guy's grave, and then it's like, I wish I could be with you, and then, you know, this storm happens, he ends up coming back to life. And like, at first you're just like, is this just girl just being an edgelord and like just obsessed with death for no reason? Like, no, you kind of get it, like, at least like her backstory and everything, and just not really fitting in anywhere, to where she feels like she is, like, she has a place among the dead in a way. And the movie plays out and you're like, okay, yeah, that kind of makes a lot of sense. The character of the creature, played by Cole Sprouse, this is one of those, I can't tell you the last time I watched a movie where like someone's physical performance carried their entire character. And I feel like that's a hard thing to come by, especially with a movie like this. It's not like playing Jason Voorhees or Michael Myers, you know, where you're a mass killer and you're a mute, but, you know, you're just, you know, their motivations and how they carry themselves. They're just looking to kill people. But with the creature here, or the monster, like, he, like, the performance by Cole Sprouse is so well done that, like, for a guy who can't talk basically the whole movie, how he carries himself through, like, his physical, like, you know, physicality, his body language, and, like, you know, he's in a lot of scenes where it requires dialogue, but he basically speaks through his, like, facial expressions, the way like his body moves and everything. It's really cute. Yeah, this is one of those movies that I think it's gonna be a cult hit. I think in a certain amount of time that, well, I think as time goes on, there's gonna be people that discover this movie more and more. I wouldn't say this is a movie that people are gonna discover right offhand, as far as, you know, this being only in theaters. I think this is one of those movies that, like, if you throw it back to the 80s, like, this would be one of those movies that people would rent a lot, and it would gain its traction and popularity through rentals. I think this is going to be one of those movies that, you know, not a lot of people are going to see this in theaters, but long, you know, when it comes to like Amazon and such, on, you know, to be able to rent digitally or buy digitally, I think a lot of people are going to discover this movie through that way. And yeah, this is a fun, like, romance slash like, you know, horror type movie, I do have to touch on the fact that like the only thing I read up on this movie as far as reviews go was there was a lot of people that were saying like how gory this movie was. And granted, this movie is PG-13, but not like that it scared me or shocked me. It just kind of surprised me, like for a PG-13 movie, how much gore was in this movie. Like there were some really like bloody parts, and I was like, whoa. I was like, I would have suspected this was rated R just based off of that, but maybe this movie was edited down just enough that I was like, all right, this can be PG-13. But yeah, because it's like there is killing in this movie. There is like, you know, blood spatter that like, you know, there's like one part where in slow motion you see like blood like spray onto like several people. And yeah, it's pretty funny though. Lisa kind of was able to kind of make this creature be more alive, and like there were certain body parts that he needed. Like right off the bat, he's missing a hand, so it's like she ends up is able to like get a hand and sew it back onto him, and like how he is like kind of resurrected to bring himself more back to life each time. It's like used through a tanning bed. I think that's so funny. But it's like, it's just, you know, voltage and everything. It's like, that's how, you know, Frankenstein's monster came to life, was just being electrocuted or, you know, in a big thunderstorm being raised up like towards the sky, and then all this thunder is happening. It's like, that's, you know, how Frankenstein's monster came to life. So I'm sure some people are going to watch this movie and be like, oh, this movie isn't realistic whatsoever. I'm like, well, you know, to each their own. But in a way, like, you did watch a movie where like a guy is brought back to life, like a corpse comes back to life through thunder and lightning, and then he becomes more and more lifelike and gets more of his body like back to normal and less dead through a tanning bed. I wouldn't necessarily expect this to play out realistically based off of those facts. So that's just my opinion though. But this is a perfectly fun movie. It is an easy watch. It's not really requiring you to pay like insane attention to. A lot of people might say this movie isn't that funny. I mean, I can understand that. This is one of those movies to me though where it's like it is funny in moments, but I wouldn't say it's trying to go for laugh out loud humor all the time. It's really not. There is a couple moments where I genuinely chuckled out loud at it, but there were moments where it's like, it is funny, but it's not like laugh out loud type funny. It's more of just going for like clever little jokes. And it's like, not everyone laughs at clever little jokes, you know? So yeah, it's one of those things that's like, I can see that's like, even if the humor doesn't hit, it's not like cringe. It's not annoying. And I know, you know, people watching this movie might have that opinion of like the humor sucked. It wasn't funny at all, whatever. That's fine. But like, you know, I'm a tough laugh, honestly. I feel like there's a lot of comedies that come out now that are more depressing than they are funny. But, you know, there is some jokes in this movie I thought were pretty funny. And yeah, I mean, normally more movies that are straight up comedies I just don't laugh at, really. But, I mean, this movie was my demographic. So, I feel like if this movie isn't your demographic, you're gonna not like it, really. But, yeah, it is overall a fun watch. I can see myself watching this again. And, yeah, it's definitely one of those that, like, you know, it's not necessarily like you have to be in a particular mood to watch. I feel like if you're just like, I just want a fun movie that has like gothic and spooky like overtones on it, this is definitely a movie that's going to do it for you. It's so, I can see myself just putting this movie on casually like a good amount. So I'm really happy a movie like this came out at this time of year, it being, you know, mid-February. Like, I don't know. I feel like most of the movies that I kind of gravitate towards don't really come out until like Halloween season, or, you know, basically like middle September. And, you know, I feel like they usually save all the, you know, the big horror or the just spooky Halloween type movies not until Halloween season. And it was nice to see a movie like this come out like early in the year, because I feel like I actually have something to talk about that's new. And there haven't been a whole lot of movies that have actually attracted me to want to go to the movies to watch them. And this was the first one in quite a while where I'm like, oh, it's only in theaters. Yeah, I'll go see it. So, and I enjoyed myself watching Lisa Frankenstein. So, if you've seen it, I'd love to know your opinion. I'm going to wrap up this very long episode of Brett's Horror Vlog. I want to just talk about popcorn and Lisa Frankenstein. And I hope you all have enjoyed these reviews / word vomits on these movies. If you did, give me a thumbs up. It's greatly appreciated. It shows that people, you know, watching me are enjoying, you know, the stuff I'm putting out. But yeah, I appreciate you all watching and tuning into Love Bets in the Belfry, and I will see you in a future video. Bye.